once people get used to using a phone, then it's really hard to get them back.
I find what they do is something they like, and what I do is something which I like, and it's something that probably everyone should respect each other's opinion.
Even if we are on Instagram, it's up to us to control the timing. If half an hour a day, okay, fine. Half an hour a day we make reels or some sort of entertainment.
It's a good tool only until there's a restricted usage of it. So like once a limit is crossed, it's something very tough to come back.
Parents, they respect my choices. They ask me to make my own decisions, because that is one very big thing. Like every decision in life matters. So they try to make me ready there.
So with me, my parents, they respect my decisions a lot. They actually give value to my opinions, my choices, what I think about.
The conversation with these teenagers helped me realize that respectful parenting can lead to self-regulation, which has helped the children stay away from the temptation of social media and other gadget addictions. While that is an ideal situation, the real world is different. The challenges in today's world the teenagers are facing are immense, especially with social media. We will explore the other side of this challenge with Aarti ma'am. Ma'am, could you kindly throw light on what are the challenges in today's teenagers are facing, and how is that impacting, whether it is their image, body image, their learning, their development, their mental health, ma'am?
Before we go into how is social media affecting children, I'd like for us to understand what happens to the brain in a teenager, because some of the choices are very defined by that. The teenage brain goes through amazing changes, so structurally as well. So this is the time that many young people struggle with making the right decisions. They are more emotionally driven than thought driven. So for me to be able to change behavior, to be able to regulate behavior, I need to be able to take my emotions to the thinking part of the brain and then make a decision, which adults can do. But for a teenage brain, that's not so easy, which is also why the teenage brain is most vulnerable to social media and excessive gadget usage. So let me start with social media, because that seems to be the elephant in the room. We have to sort of address it. Now, social media is very specifically designed to keep people addicted. It was never built for keeping people connected, though it started out that way. Addiction was the key element in all of this, though none of them will admit it. And as controversial as that sounds, I'd like for us to understand that most of our children, though it's said that you have to have an account only when you're 18, most young children already have an account. What does this do to them? Number one, excessive usage. What happens when I get a like, when I get a new follower, something like that, for content I've posted? There is a dopamine high, which is the pleasure hormone in my brain. It's the reward mechanism that happens. So I will get the same dopamine even when I've written an answer and I've scored 60 marks or 90 marks. But the difference is social media is so instant. For an exam, I have to say study for a certain period of time, put in that effort, have a coaching class, whatever, and then write coherently. But here, for doing nothing, I can get a like. I can even buy a like. So which is why it's much more dangerous in the long run. Secondly, because of social media, a lot of people have started projecting a totally different side on the outside that is accessible by millions, and then the inside, or who they are really, is something that they are so disconnected with.
So are they losing their own reality, ma'am?
They're losing their self first, and then they're losing their connect to reality. The difference is, unless I know who I am, I can't create my reality. So there is a virtual reality, as they call it, where there's an avatar, there's a false persona. We even have selfie dysmorphia. People have been using their selfie cameras with so many filters and changing the way their face looks.
That they keep wishing they look like that.
So they, dysmorphia itself, ma'am, if you really look at the word, it means that the face or the body, whatever part is perfect, but in my perception it's not okay. So I want to do something about it. Earlier plastic surgery was the only, or cosmetic surgery was the only way to correct something. Now you can correct it with filters and apps. And the apps are so driven by artificial intelligence that they know exactly what you don't like. So they start giving you more and more options for how it should look, to the point that a lot of people do not even know how they look. So when they really look at themselves in the mirror, they're unable to accept who they are. So it's such a big disconnect. And it's such self-hatred that you're actually being so violent to yourself. And if we look at a child, a teenager whose brain is not yet able to navigate all these complex emotions, it leads directly to issues like depression, anxiety, personality-related changes, which are not easy to treat. So this is from the angle of social media. In addition to this, there is a component of trolling and cyberbullying. Exclusion earlier was only in your own classroom. If you had 30 children that you were studying with, 6 people in your community, you were only excluded by them. Now you have some random person, you hardly know who they are, and they're shaming you. Now this is another very, very difficult aspect. Like, even if somebody passes a remark and I'm not able to take it, it's so painful. Can you imagine somebody who hardly knows me is able to get access to the innermost core of my insecurity? That is the second challenge that many of these children face.
I think one of the biggest challenges is that we are not able to make connections. Like if you see, there are like people who have more online friends than real friends.
Social media is also impacting relationships. Like, Vidyanshi was saying that, you have more online friends than real friends.
This is becoming again a pandemic of sorts, if I were to put it in that sense, because the thing is, somewhere this false sense that I have a lot of friends because I have numbers is what is difficult. Now, some of my best friends are friends I made when I was in school. We've been friends for 30 odd years, and I wouldn't really replace those friends with anybody new. We are not connected on social media because we make that effort, irrespective of being across different continents, to speak every week. It's that ritual that we have because the relationship is so important. And like you also have a lot of friends, that in friendships there will be moments when we have conflicts. There are times that we want time off from the relationship. There are times that we want to share. And every relationship takes time to build because it's a thing of value. And the current generation is so driven by instant gratification that if somebody does not like their post, then they're unfriended, ghosted, blocked, unfriended. So these kind of things are very, very tricky.
And it's having a huge emotional effect on teenagers. As it is, they're so vulnerable, and this is playing up for them even more.
The teen years are even more important relationally because that is the primary area of development for them. The peer interaction is so important. In the other ages, if you still don't have a support structure or a safety net, you're able to manage. But in the teen years, without relationships, even if you're introverted, it's a very painful experience for a lot of them. So that's where this concept of virtual friends needs to definitely be replaced by actually having physical friends. A lot of children make this excuse saying, I have a lot of people with similar interests, like I like astronomy and I have groups where I can engage. That is a different aspect of relationships where, I'm looking for, work related or content related relationships. But real relationships where there is emotional connect, where there is regulation, it has to be much deeper and definitely in person, not someone virtual.
Now, not having phones or not wanting to be on social media, is this your choice or is it a rule of the house?
Actually, our parents, like my parents, are absolutely okay with me having a phone or having an account on Instagram, but they show us the way. Like there are two paths, the right one and the wrong one. Not even the wrong one, they're just different. So they tell us what's right, what's wrong. I would enjoy doing other things rather than being like on screen for a long time.
My parents left the choice to me. I took the choice of not having them because they've always showed me what's right and what's wrong.
And also we keep hearing a lot about gaming and the effects sometimes it's having, reels, TikToks. I've recently heard that a 9-year-old, because her father restricted her from or said something about making reels, she hung herself. These are extremes.
It's pointing back to the fact that we have lost the ability to regulate. I'm sure that you've also been punished as a child for mischief and things like that.
Many times.
Right? So what would have happened at that time, we would have been a little angry with our parents for having done something or taken away some privilege or something, but then we still came back, and it was never about the relationship. It was never about a resentful thing where I wanted to teach my parents a lesson. There was no revenge involved. We were able to work through that relationship. Right now, even a lot of the content that's available teaches you how to end your life. For a child who has no regulation, that becomes very, very dangerous. So having said that, your question about gaming, it's not true that only boys are into gaming. Though a lot more boys are. It's something that all of them like. Games are very specifically designed by attention managers. Attention managers are people who understand how to manipulate attention span of a human being. The new economy is attention economy.
What do you mean by that?
So earlier, economy of a country or of entire place would be defined by the GDP and production, manufacturing, sales, those kind of parameters. Now all of this is designed or defined rather by how much attention I can gain from people online. So companies are placing their ads based on how much they can attract somebody.
So it is something like how many followers you have?
Not really, ma'am. See, now I earlier spoke about dysmorphia. So let's assume that I'm someone who doesn't like how my nose looks or my ears look. I'm constantly online trying to change this. This information, this data is taken by the attention managers, and usually it's AI driven. It's taken to companies that can now send you advertisements for either having a surgical process or using a product, a filter, whatever, where it will make you buy the filter for a certain period of time or go in for a surgical procedure. And this is where mental health treatment also is becoming a problem. You'll see more and more people diagnosing themselves with anxiety disorder, depression, personality disorders. Any average day I have about 7 or 8 calls coming in from teenagers saying, I think I have ADHD. I think I have this. And not to belittle anyone who has the genuine condition, but this self-diagnosis is making children believe that everyday things like not being able to concentrate is a clinical condition that requires treatment. And that's also becoming a convenient excuse for a lot of children not to complete their work. They tell their parents, I think I have ADHD, so I can't finish this. I didn't write this test well because I have ADHD. So it's becoming a very quick fallback. And the children who really have the problem don't have access to help because of all this misdiagnosis and self-diagnosis that a lot of children are doing. So considering all of this, what is it doing to the teenager is what I'd like to understand. One, it is changing their perception of the self. It is disconnecting them from the reality that they live in. It is destroying their relationships, both with the peer group, with themselves, and more importantly with the parents and the family. Because in Asian cultures which are so family driven, this disconnect with the family is causing a lot of stress. And the addictions to gaming also, apart from attention economy, the second thing is it doesn't engage them in problem solving. What happens is you just go from level to level and you get rewarded for anything. Like you shoot somebody, you get marks or get points. You get, it's called the law of least effort. For destruction, I get rewarded. In any of the game, you will never see something being built being rewarded. It will be the destroying or speeding away, those kind of things that are rewarded. So we're actually rewarding so-called negative behaviors and then expecting them to have a connect with reality where they have to be contributing constructive people in society. It's a very dangerous mental toxin because we don't know how it's shaping personality. I've personally had to work with a lot of young people who've become physically violent and aggressive because of excessive use of gadgets, and especially in the gaming platforms.
How does it feel to have parents who respect your choices, who actually give you choices, and respect the choice you take. How does that feel for you?
We usually have a lot of disagreements, but whenever we have these kind of conflicts, we usually just go out on a walk, a pleasant walk, and then my father or my mother, they both explain me what they feel, and I feel good about it because they aren't like scolding me, or they aren't imposing their decisions on me, but they're rather giving their opinion in a more pleasant way, which kind of comforts me.
While there is all this information and awareness of the challenges, now how do we, it's impossible for parents to ask children to get away from it. What is the best way that as a school, as educators and as parents, we can help children reduce their screen time or addiction to social media?
The first thing is, for any addiction to be broken, there must be a solid relationship that the child can fall back on. Very often we believe that just taking away the gadget and being punitive helps children. Far from that. Just think about a relationship where you feel safe. When you're with that person, you never actually take your phone, or you never really look at your tab. So the relational aspect can never be undone. So if parents really want to make a change, the first effort will be in trying to build back the bridges with their children. And it is an uphill task. I won't say that it's going to happen overnight.
Especially with teenagers,
yes,
it's to rebuild that connection.
So that would be the first aspect. Second is to help children get back into a routine, because we can't motivate them suddenly, but self-discipline will take us places motivation cannot. So bringing in that self-discipline through routine is the second aspect. The two last hours that I always help teenagers understand: what must you reduce, what must you restrict. Reduce anything that is distracting you, because distraction is the gateway for addiction. So when you notice that you're feeling a little anxious and then you go on to a particular app or a particular video or particular social media site, then remove that from your phone or the gadget that you have most access to. Like the ones that are addictive are on my laptop because I don't access it so much. But the ones that are least addictive I have on my phone because I have my phone with me more often. It could be the other way around for someone who's more on the laptop and not so much on their phone. So reduce anything that is distracting you. Restriction is what you know is harmful for you. So let's assume that you go online and then you never come back. So there are sites that are specifically gaming, for example. Pornography is another one. The third area is shopping. There are people who are endlessly shopping. So when you notice that it moves to a behavior change, which either makes you harm yourself physically, makes you spend excessively, or takes away your relational compatibility, then that is something that you have to restrict. So these would be the rules that I would probably use with teenagers.
Thank you so much, Aarti ma'am. That was very informative. Thank you again.